First contact and misjudgment. For millennia, the Galactic Concordat had reigned supreme across the known universe. A coalition of the oldest and most advanced species, the Concordat prided itself on bringing order and civilization to the cosmos. Their methods were tried and true. Identify emerging species, display overwhelming force, and integrate them into the galactic community under Concordat rule. It was a system that had worked flawlessly for eons. The Concordat's power was built upon strict adherence to ancient codes of conduct, especially in warfare. Battles were fought with precision and restraint, more akin to elaborate dances than true conflicts. Victory was achieved through superior positioning, tactical prowess, and technological advantage. Bloodshed was minimal, and complete annihilation of an enemy was considered barbaric and wasteful. This was the way of enlightened beings, or so the Concordat believed. When humanity first appeared on the galactic stage, the Concordat took notice with mild curiosity. Earth had recently achieved faster-than-light travel, a milestone that typically marked a species as ready for integration. Initial observations painted a picture of a fractious, emotional race barely out of its planetary cradle. The Concordat's experts predicted an easy subjugation. High Admiral Zix Era of the Volteri, one of the Concordat's founding races, reviewed the reports on humanity with disinterest. Another primitive species stumbling into the cosmos, she chittered to her advisors. Prepare the standard integration fleet. We'll give them a proper welcome. The Concordat's integration fleet, a massive armada of sleek, crystalline ships, arrived in Earth's solar system with all the pomp and ceremony befitting their status. They expected the humans to be awed by their display, to quickly realize the futility of resistance, and submit to Concordat rule. What they found instead was a species seemingly oblivious to the threat they posed. Human ships approached without fear, broadcasting messages of greeting and friendship. The Concordat commanders were baffled. Didn't these primitives understand the power arrayed against them? Admiral Zixera, leading the fleet from her flagship, the resplendent Harmony, decided a demonstration was in order. She ordered a single shot fired at one of Earth's orbital platforms, expecting it to shatter and send the humans scrambling for surrender. The energy beam lanced out, striking the platform. But instead of disintegrating, the structure's shields flared to life, absorbing the impact. A moment later, the platform's weapons opened fire, a barrage of projectiles and energy beams that the Concordat ships barely managed to dodge. Zixera's compound eyes widened in shock. "Impossible," she hissed. "Their technology is far more advanced than we anticipated." The human ships, which had been passively observing until now, suddenly sprang into action. They moved with a speed and agility that defied the Concordat's understanding of physics, weaving between the much larger alien vessels with ease. "This is Admiral Chen of the Earth Defense Force," a voice boomed across all communication channels. "You have committed an act of unprovoked aggression against a peaceful human installation. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences." The Concordat fleet, still reeling from the unexpected resistance, hesitated. This was not how first contact was supposed to go. The primitives were supposed to surrender, not issue ultimatums. Zixera, her pride stung, made a fateful decision. "We are the Galactic Concordat," she announced. "Your species will submit to our rule or be eradicated. This is your only warning." For a moment, silence reigned across the battlefield. Then, without warning, the human ships attacked. What followed was unlike anything the Concordat had ever experienced. The humans fought with a ferocity and skill that defied comprehension. Their weapons, a mix of advanced energy beams and crude but devastatingly effective kinetic projectiles, tore through Concordat shields as if they were tissue paper. Zixera watched in horror as ship after ship in her fleet was destroyed or disabled. The humans showed no restraint, no adherence to the codes of warfare the Concordat held sacred. They targeted vital systems with precision, leaving no chance for surrender or retreat. "Fall back!" Zixera screamed, her composure shattered. All ships, emergency retreat. As the remnants of the Concordat fleet fled Earth's solar system, leaving behind a graveyard of shattered ships, the true magnitude of their mistake began to dawn on them. They had grossly underestimated humanity, and in doing so, had awakened a sleeping giant. Back on Earth, in the war room of the Global Defense Council, Admiral Chen addressed the assembled leaders of humanity. "They'll be back," he said grimly. "And next time, they won't underestimate us." President Emilia Reyes of the United Earth Government nodded solemnly. "Then we must be prepared. Humanity has avoided full-scale war among ourselves for generations, but it seems the universe has other plans. If it's a fight they want, it's a fight they'll get." As news of the alien attack spread across Earth, humanity united in a way it never had before. Ancient rivalries were set aside, resources were pooled, and every aspect of society was geared towards one goal: survival. In secret facilities across the globe and throughout Earth's budding colonies, weapons of unimaginable destructive power were developed. Martial traditions long thought obsolete were revived and combined with cutting-edge technology. Humanity prepared for war on a scale unprecedented in its history. The Concordat, nursing its wounds and its wounded pride, believed they had simply encountered an anomaly. Surely, once they returned in force, humanity would fall in line like every other species before them. They could not have been more wrong. As the Concordat licked its wounds and plotted its retaliation, humanity worked tirelessly. They reverse-engineered captured Concordat technology, enhancing their own capabilities far beyond what anyone thought possible. They built fleets of warships that married elegance with brutality, each vessel a testament to humanity's determination to survive and thrive among the stars. In the depths of space, on a small human colony world called New Eden, settlers went about their lives, unaware that they would soon become the focal point of a conflict that would reshape the galaxy. As the Concordat gathered its forces for what they believed would be a simple punitive action, humanity stood ready, a sleeping giant no longer. The stage was set for a confrontation that would shatter the Concordat's millennia-old dominance and introduce the galaxy to a terrifying new force, a humanity unleashed, fighting not for honor or protocol, but for its very survival. The galaxy was about to learn that when pushed, humans don't just fight, they annihilate. The hammer falls. The Galactic Concordat had spent the past solar cycle licking its wounds and planning its revenge. The humiliation suffered at the hands of the humans, a species they had dismissed as primitive, burned like acid in their collective consciousness. High Admiral Zix's era, her reputation in tatters after the disastrous first contact, had been relegated to a minor advisory role. In her place stood Grand Marshal Clerath of the Tyloxy, a being known for his ruthless efficiency. Clerath's mandibles clicked in anticipation as he addressed the Concordat War Council. "We underestimated these humans once. We will not make that mistake again. Our next strike will be swift, overwhelming, and will leave no doubt as to the consequences of defying the Concordat." The target was chosen: New Eden, a thriving human colony world on the outskirts of Earth-controlled space. It was far enough from Earth to prevent immediate reinforcement, yet significant enough that its loss would deal a crushing blow to human morale. The Concordat assembled a fleet 5 times the size of the one that had first encountered Earth. This time, they would not fail. As the Concordat armada approached New Eden, confidence ran high among its ranks. Surely, this display of force would bring the upstart humans to their knees. What they didn't know was that humanity had been preparing for this moment with a single-minded intensity that would have shocked even the most militant Concordat species. New Eden's defenses appeared minimal at first glance: a few orbital platforms, a small fleet of ships that seemed almost primitive compared to the Concordat's gleaming armada. Grand Marshal Clerath allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. This would be over quickly. "Attention, human colony." Clerath's voice boomed across all frequencies. "This is the Galactic Concordat. Your species has committed grievous offenses against galactic law. Surrender now, and your lives will be spared. Resist, and you will be eradicated." For a long moment, there was silence. Then a response came, not in words, but in action. The seemingly primitive human ships suddenly came to life, their hulls shifting and reconfiguring in ways that defied the Concordat's understanding of physics. What had appeared to be cargo vessels transformed into heavily armed warships bristling with weapons, the likes of which the galaxy had never seen. Before the Concordat fleet could react, the human ships opened fire. But these were not the energy beams or kinetic projectiles the Concordat had faced before. These weapons tore holes in the very fabric of space-time, creating localized singularities that swallowed Concordat ships whole. Others fired beams that seemed to age materials by millennia in seconds, turning mighty warships into drifting clouds of rust and debris. Clerath watched in horror as a third of his fleet vanished in the opening salvo. "Impossible," he chittered, mandibles quivering in fear. "All ships, return fire. Show these primitives the might of the Concordat." But the Concordat's weapons seemed to have little effect. The human ship's armor absorbed or reflected everything thrown at them. And all the while, New Eden's orbital platforms, previously thought to be mere defensive installations, revealed themselves to be weapon platforms of terrifying power. They fired salvos of missiles that split into thousands of smaller projectiles, each one seeking out and destroying a Concordat vessel with unerring accuracy. As the battle raged, reports began flooding in from other sectors. This wasn't just an isolated defense of a single colony. Humanity had launched a full-scale counteroffensive across a dozen fronts. Concordat worlds that had thought themselves safe in the heart of their territory now found themselves under attack by human fleets that seemed to appear out of nowhere. On New Eden's surface, Concordat ground forces that had managed to land found themselves facing an enemy unlike any they had encountered in millennia of warfare. Human soldiers moved with augmented speed and strength, their armor shrugging off energy weapons as if they were mere annoyances. They employed tactics that seemed suicidal at first, only to result in devastating victories. One Concordat commander, pinned down with his troops in what had once been a human settlement, managed to transmit a final message before his position was overrun. "They're not fighting a war," he gasped, terror evident in his voice. "They're exterminating us. Stars have mercy on us all." In orbit, Grand Marshal Clerath realized the battle was lost. In less than a standard day, the mighty Concordat armada had been reduced to scattered pockets of resistance. "All remaining ships," he ordered, his voice hollow with defeat, "initiate emergency warp protocols. Retreat to fallback point Omega." As the battered remnants of the Concordat fleet fled, leaving behind a graveyard of ships that dwarfed anything seen in the galaxy's history, the true scale of humanity's retaliation became clear. This wasn't just a defense of their territory. This was the beginning of a war of annihilation. News of the battle spread across the galaxy at faster-than-light speeds. Species that had long lived under the Concordat's rule watched in awe and terror as reports came in of human fleets striking deep into Concordat space. Worlds that had never known fear now trembled at the mention of Earth. In the Concordat's central chambers, panic reigned. Species that had been part of the galactic power structure for millions of years now found themselves facing an enemy that didn't just defeat them. It seemed intent on erasing them from existence. Meanwhile, on Earth, the mood was somber but resolute. President Amelia Rice addressed the United Earth government, her words broadcast to every human settlement and ship across known space. "Today we have shown the galaxy that humanity will not bow to tyranny," she declared, her voice steady and determined. "The Galactic Concordat believed they could subjugate us, as they have countless others. They thought us weak, primitive, easy prey. They have learned the price of that mistake." She paused, her eyes scanning the assembled leaders. "But let me be clear, this is not a war of conquest. We do not seek to rule a galaxy as the Concordat has. We fight for our right to exist, to explore, to grow. We fight for our future among the stars." As her words echoed across human space, warships were already being refitted, new weapons prepared. The scientist-strategists, a new breed of warriors who combined scientific genius with martial prowess, worked tirelessly to push the boundaries of what was possible in warfare. Humanity had been pushed to the brink, forced into a war they did not seek. But now that the die was cast, they would see it through to the end. The galaxy was beginning to realize a terrifying truth. When fighting for survival, humans didn't just battle, they unleashed a storm that could reshape the very foundations of the cosmos. As the first wave of the human counteroffensive concluded, the galaxy collectively held its breath. The opening moves had been made. The Concordat's assumption of easy victory shattered like glass. Now, all watched and waited to see what humanity would do next. The storm had only just begun. The galaxy trembles. As news of humanity's devastating counterattack spread across the galaxy, the repercussions were felt far beyond the battlefields. Species that had long lived under the Concordat's rule now found themselves questioning the established order. Some watched in terror, others with a spark of hope, as reports filtered in of human fleets pushing deeper into Concordat space. On Salax Prime, homeworld of the Salaxi, one of the Concordat's oldest member species, the Council of Elders convened in an emergency session. Elder Xanthora, her iridescent scales dulled with stress, addressed her peers. "For eons, we have been the beacon of civilization in this galaxy," she began, her voice trembling slightly. "But now we face an enemy unlike any we have encountered. These humans, they do not adhere to the ancient codes. They do not fight with honor or restraint. They fight to win at any cost." Murmurs of agreement and fear rippled through the chamber. Another elder, Krivax, raised his voice. Perhaps it is time we considered negotiation. Surely these humans can be reasoned with." The chamber fell silent, the very suggestion of treating with the enemy sending shockwaves through the assembled elders. Before anyone could respond, a thunderous boom shook the building. Alarms blared as panicked aides rushed into the chamber. "We're under attack," one shouted. "Human ships have breached our defenses." Across Concordat space, similar scenes played out. Worlds that had known only peace for millennia now found themselves on the front lines of a war they were ill-prepared to fight. The Concordat's military doctrine, built on precision strikes and limited engagements, crumbled in the face of humanity's all-out assault. Human warships, each a marvel of engineering that blended brutally efficient design with technologies that bordered on the miraculous, tore through Concordat defenses like paper. They employed tactics that seemed suicidal at first glance, only to result in stunning victories. Entire fleets would appear out of nowhere, strike with devastating force, and vanish again before a response could be mounted. On the Concordat core world of Hexteris II, Admiral Jen Liu of the Earth Fleet stood on the bridge of her flagship, the EFS Thermopylae. A holographic display showed the ongoing battle, or rather, the ongoing rout of Concordat forces. "Status report," she commanded, her voice calm despite the chaos unfolding around them. Her XO, Commander Rashid, responded crisply. "The enemy's orbital defenses have been neutralized. Their fleet is in disarray. Ground forces are ready for deployment on your order, Admiral." Admiral Liu nodded, her eyes never leaving the tactical display. "Commence Operation Downfall. Remember, we're not here to occupy. Hit their military and industrial centers hard, then we move on to the next target." As drop pods rained down on Hexteris II, carrying within them some of humanity's most elite soldiers, the true nature of Earth's strategy became clear. This wasn't a war of conquest. It was a systematic dismantling of the Concordat's ability to wage war. On Earth, the United Earth Government's war room was a hive of activity. President Amelia Rice stood at the center, surrounded by holographic displays showing battles unfolding across dozens of star systems. Madam President, General Octavia Reeves, Earth's highest-ranking military officer, approached with a datapad. "I have the latest reports from the front. We've achieved our objectives in the Hexteris and Zeta Reticuli sectors." The Concordat's 3rd and 7th fleets have been effectively neutralized. Reyes nodded, her expression grim. Casualties. Minimal on our side. Reeves replied. The new Lazarus medpods are performing beyond expectations. We're able to return 85% of wounded soldiers to the field within hours. The president allowed herself a small smile. The Lazarus Project, a quantum leap in medical technology that allowed for near-miraculous healing, was just one of many advancements born from humanity's drive to survive this war. And the Concordat? Reyes asked. Reeves' expression darkened. Total losses are significant. Early estimates suggest we've inflicted casualties in the billions. A heavy silence fell over the war room. The scale of destruction was almost beyond comprehension. But for humanity, it was a grim necessity. The Concordat had to be stopped, not just defeated but dismantled so thoroughly that it could never again threaten Earth or any other species. As humanity's war machine rolled on, the galaxy watched in awe and terror. Species that had long chafed under Concordat rule saw an opportunity in the chaos. Rebellions flared up on 100 worlds, further stretching the Concordat's dwindling resources. In the Andromeda sector, a Concordat flotilla found itself caught between a human battle group and a suddenly hostile planetary defense force. Admiral Cronax of the Vulture, watching his ships be torn apart by a pincer attack he never saw coming, realized the bitter truth. We're not just losing a war, he muttered, watching his flagship systems fail one by one. We're witnessing the end of an era. Back on Salix Prime, the Council of Elders huddled in a bunker deep beneath the planet's surface. Their once great cities lay in ruins, their mighty fleets reduced to drifting debris. Elder Xanthora, her scales now pale with fear, turned to her peers. We must sue for peace, she said, her voice barely above a whisper, before there's nothing left of us to save. But even as the words left her mouth, she knew it might already be too late. Humanity, pushed to the brink of extinction, had unleashed a fury that threatened to reshape the very fabric of galactic society. As the 3rd phase of Earth's grand offensive drew to a close, the galaxy held its collective breath. The Concordat, once thought invincible, now teetered on the brink of collapse. But the question on everyone's mind was, what would humanity do next? Would they show mercy to a defeated foe, or would they pursue this war to its ultimate, terrifying conclusion? The storm that humanity had unleashed showed no signs of abating, and in its wake, a new galactic order was beginning to take shape, one in which the long-dominant Concordat was no longer at the center. The galaxy trembled, caught between fear of humanity's wrath and hope for a future free from Concordat rule. As reports of yet another stunning human victory reached the far corners of known space, one thing became abundantly clear. The age of the Concordat was over. The age of humanity had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same again. Desperate measures. The once mighty Galactic Concordat, a behemoth that had dominated the cosmos for millennia, now found itself backed into a corner. Humanity's relentless assault had shattered their fleets, razed their fortress worlds, and left their leadership in disarray. But like any wounded animal, the Concordat was at its most dangerous when desperate. In the depths of Concordat space, on a world whose name had been stricken from all records, the remnants of the Concordat's high command gathered in a bunker that ran miles deep into the planet's crust. Grand Arbiter Zixlax, the nominal leader of what remained of the Concordat, addressed the grim-faced assembly. "We face extinction," Zixlax began, his normally melodious voice now harsh with stress. "These humans, these savages, they will not stop until we are erased from history. We must take drastic action." A murmur ran through the assembled leaders. Admiral Cronax, one of the few military commanders to survive an encounter with human forces, spoke up. "What do you propose, Grand Arbiter? We've thrown everything we have at them. Nothing works." Zixlax's eyes gleamed with a dangerous light. "Not everything, Admiral. There is the Omega Protocol." The chamber fell silent. The Omega Protocol was more myth than reality, a doomsday weapon so terrible that its very existence had been hidden from most of the Concordat's own people. "You can't be serious," Elder Xanthor of the Galaxy gasped. "The Omega Protocol could destroy half the galaxy. And what choice do we have?" Zixlax shot back. "We either use it, or we accept our annihilation at the hands of these human barbarians." As the Concordat's leaders debated the unthinkable, humanity pressed its advantage. Earth's fleets, now augmented by ships and technology salvaged from 100 battlefields, pushed ever deeper into enemy territory. Aboard the ISS Prometheus, the newest and most advanced vessel in Earth's armada, Admiral Yuki Tanaka reviewed the latest intelligence reports. Her eyes widened as she took in the information scrolling across her neural interface. "This can't be right," she muttered, double-checking the data. "Command, are you seeing this?" Back on Earth, in the war room of the United Earth Government, alarms blared as the same information reached them. President Amelia Reyes rushed in, flanked by her top advisors. "Talk to me," she demanded. "What are we looking at?" Dr. Elias Cohen, head of Earth's Xenotechnology Division, stepped forward. His holographic avatar flickered with barely contained excitement and fear. "Madam President, we've detected an enormous energy buildup in the Zeta Reticuli sector. It's like nothing we've ever seen before. The power readings they're off the charts." General Octavia Reeves, her face grim, added, "Whatever it is, it's big enough to be a threat to our entire offensive, possibly to Earth itself." President Ray's eyes narrowed. "Options. We have to strike now," General Reeves said firmly. "Hit them with everything we've got before they can bring this weapon online." Dr. Cohen shook his head. "We don't know what we're dealing with. A direct assault could trigger a catastrophe on a galactic scale." For a moment, the war room was silent save for the soft beeping of consoles. Then President Reyes spoke, her voice steady. "We didn't start this war, but by all that's holy, we're going to finish it. General Reeves, marshal every ship we can spare. Dr. Cohen, I want your best people on this. Find us a way to neutralize that weapon. Whatever the Concordat's planning, we stop it. Here. Now." As orders went out across human space, the greatest fleet ever assembled by Earth began to coalesce. Ships of all sizes, from nimble frigates to massive dreadnoughts, gathered at the rally point. Each vessel was a testament to human ingenuity and determination, bristling with weapons that could crack planets and shields that could withstand the fury of a sun. Admiral Tanaka, given overall command of the operation, addressed the fleet. Her words echoed across thousands of ships and millions of minds, linked by quantum entanglement communicators. "Men and women of Earth, and our allies among the stars," she began, her voice calm but filled with steel. "We face perhaps our greatest challenge yet. The enemy, in its desperation, seeks to unleash a weapon that threatens not just us, but the entire galaxy. We cannot, we will not, allow this to happen." She paused, letting her words sink in. "This is not just a fight for our survival now. It's a fight for every sentient being in this galaxy, including those who still call themselves our enemies. We go now to face the darkness, to stand against annihilation itself. And we will prevail, because that's what humans do. We defy the impossible. We rage against the dying of the light." As humanity's armada surged towards its final confrontation with the Concordat, the galaxy held its breath. On 1,000 worlds, beings of all species turned their eyes to the skies, knowing that the fate of everything hung in the balance. In the Zeta Reticuli sector, the Concordat's last, desperate gamble neared completion. The Omega Protocol, a weapon of such devastating power that its activation would rewrite the laws of physics in its wake, hummed with terrifying potential. Grand Arbiter Zixlax stood before the massive control interface, his hand hovering over the activation panel. Behind him, the few remaining leaders of the Concordat watched in fearful anticipation. "For the glory of the Concordat," Zixlax whispered. "For survival." His hand descended towards the panel. In that moment, proximity alarms blared to life. A junior officer rushed in, panic evident in every movement. "The humans," he cried. "They're here. An enormous fleet, larger than anything we've ever seen." Zixlax's eyes widened in shock. How had they known? How had they gathered such a force so quickly? For the first time, a sliver of doubt crept into his mind. Had he underestimated these humans yet again? As the human fleet engaged the Concordat's last line of defense, Admiral Tanaka's voice rang out across the battle space. "All ships, commence Operation Lightbringer. May fortune favor the bold." The battle that followed would be spoken of for generations to come. Human ships danced between streams of exotic particles and reality-warping energies. Concordat vessels, fighting with the desperation of the damned, gave everything they had. In the midst of the chaos, a small team of human special forces, led by the legendary Commander Sarah Chen, fought their way into the heart of the Omega Protocol facility. Their mission? To stop the unthinkable, no matter the cost. As the fate of the galaxy hung in the balance, one truth became clear to all who witnessed the battle. Humanity, when pushed to the brink, was capable of feats that defied imagination. They fought not just for themselves, but for the very future of all sentient life. The climax of the war approached, and with it, the dawn of a new era for the galaxy, an era that would be shaped by the indomitable will of humanity. A new galactic order. The battle for Zeta Reticuli raged on, a tempest of energy weapons, relativistic projectiles, and reality-warping technologies that threatened to tear the very fabric of space-time. At the heart of this maelstrom, Commander Sarah Chen and her team of elite operatives fought their way through the labyrinthine corridors of the Omega Protocol facility. "We're running out of time," Chen growled into her quantum-linked comm as she ducked under a burst of plasma fire. "Admiral, we need that distraction now." Aboard the EFS Prometheus, Admiral Yuki Tanaka received Chen's transmission. With a grim nod, she gave the order that would change the course of the battle and history. "All ships," Tanaka's voice rang out across the human fleet, "initiate Operation Sunburst." In perfect synchronization, hundreds of human vessels activated a technology that had been kept secret until this moment. Quantum singularity generators, reverse-engineered from captured Concordat tech and enhanced by human ingenuity, came online. The fabric of space-time rippled and tore as miniature black holes winked into existence throughout the battlefield. The Concordat forces, caught completely off guard by this impossible maneuver, found their ships being torn apart by gravitational forces beyond their comprehension. In the confusion, Chen and her team seized their opportunity. Fighting their way to the central chamber, they came face to face with Grand Arbiter Zixlax, his hand poised over the Omega Protocol's activation panel. "Stop," Chen shouted, her weapon trained on the alien leader. "It's over. You've lost." Zixlax turned, his eyes wide with a mixture of fear and defiance. "You understand nothing, human," he hissed. "This weapon is our salvation. With it, we can reset the galaxy, undo your barbaric assault on civilization." Chen's eyes narrowed. "At the cost of how many lives? How many worlds? This isn't salvation. It's genocide on a cosmic scale." For a moment, the chamber was silent save for the distant rumble of battle. Then, with a cry of desperation, Zixlax lunged for the panel. Chen's reflexes, honed by years of combat and enhanced by cutting-edge cybernetics, were faster. A single shot rang out, and the Grand Arbiter crumpled to the floor. "Command, this is Chen," she reported, her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. "The Omega Protocol has been neutralized. I repeat, Omega Protocol is neutralized." As word spread across the battlefield, the remaining Concordat forces, their leadership in disarray and their superweapon lost, began to surrender. The great Galactic Concordat, which had ruled the stars for millennia, had finally fallen. In the days that followed, as the dust of battle settled and the full scale of the conflict became clear. The galaxy found itself at a crossroads. The power vacuum left by the Concordat's defeat threatened to plunge countless worlds into chaos. On Earth, President Amelia Rice addressed the United Earth government, and by extension, all of humanity. "We stand at a pivotal moment in galactic history," she began, her voice solemn yet filled with hope. "We did not seek this war, but we have won it. Now, we face an even greater challenge. Peace." She paused, letting her words sink in. It would be easy, perhaps even justified, to impose our will on the galaxy as the Concordat once did. But that is not our way. We are not conquerors. We are explorers, innovators, dreamers. And now we must also be healers. Across the galaxy, beings of all species watched and listened as humanity outlined its vision for the future. It was a vision of cooperation, of shared prosperity, of a galactic community where strength came not from domination, but from diversity and mutual respect. In the following months, Earth took the lead in establishing a new galactic governance structure. The Galactic Coalition, as it came to be known, was founded on principles of self-determination, mutual defense, and scientific cooperation. Former Concordat worlds were given the choice to join, to form their own alliances, or to remain independent. Many chose to ally with Earth, having seen firsthand the power of human determination and the mercy that followed their victory. Others, still wary of centralized power, opted for independence. Earth respected all choices, asking only for peace and open dialogue. As the new order took shape, humanity's role in the galaxy evolved. Earth's advanced technology, born from the crucible of war, was now turned towards peaceful pursuits. Human scientists worked alongside alien counterparts to solve problems that had plagued civilizations for eons. Terraforming techniques pioneered for military applications were used to restore worlds ravaged by conflict. The Lazarus medpods, which had saved countless human lives during the war, were now distributed across the galaxy, revolutionizing medical care for dozens of species. The quantum singularity technology that had turned the tide in the final battle was repurposed for faster-than-light travel, opening up new frontiers for exploration. 5 years after the fall of the Concordat, the galaxy had changed almost beyond recognition. Where once there had been stagnation and oppression, now there was growth and innovation. Species that had been enemies for millennia now worked side by side in pursuit of common goals. On the anniversary of the war's end, representatives from across the galaxy gathered on Earth for a ceremony of remembrance and hope. As the sun set over the rebuilt skyline of New Geneva, home of the Galactic Coalition's headquarters, Admiral Yuki Tanaka, now serving as Earth's representative to the Coalition, stood before the assembled dignitaries. 5 years ago, we faced annihilation, she began. We fought not just for our survival, but for the right to determine our own destiny. That fight cost us dearly, and we remember those we lost. She gestured to a monument behind her, a towering sculpture of intertwined strands representing the DNA of every sapient species in the galaxy. But from that crucible of conflict, we have forged something remarkable. A true community of worlds, united not by force or fear, but by shared aspirations and mutual respect. As Tanaka spoke, on 100 worlds, beings of all shapes and sizes looked to the stars with new eyes. The galaxy, once a place of danger and unknown threats, now represented opportunity and adventure. In a classroom on the former Concordat world of Salax Prime, a young Salaxi student raised her hand. "Teacher," she asked, her scales shimmering with curiosity, "do you think I could visit Earth one day?" The teacher, who still remembered the terror of the war, smiled warmly. "Of course you can," she replied. "The stars are open to all of us now." And so, as the galaxy continued to heal and grow, humanity found its place not as conquerors, but as guides and partners in a grand cosmic adventure. The storm they had unleashed had reshaped the very foundations of galactic society, but from its fury had emerged a new era of peace, discovery, and limitless potential. The age of the Concordat was over. The Age of Unity had begun, and at its heart stood humanity, no longer fighting to survive, but thriving, exploring, and reaching ever outward to the endless frontier of the stars.